What's happening, crew? We are going to work with some tissue paper today. So I have a variety of colors and shapes here. I've already started cutting some up into smaller pieces, so you might want some scissors as well. And we are going to be working like ERIC CARLE. So he's a famous author, illustrator, artist. If you've ever read the book like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, that's ERIC CARLE. And he loves to use collage and different painted papers and tissue papers as kind of a base, and then work on top or cut them up and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So I have some tissue paper ready. I also have a white piece of paper as my base. And there's two ways to kind of create your paper base. You can glue tissue paper on directly and then paint or draw on top of that. Or you can use water and a paintbrush to kind of act like a glue in a different process, and I'll show you that too. So if you wanted to just kind of layer different colors and different shapes, you might plan out how you want to arrange the tissue paper on your white base. Maybe some warm colors next to each other, maybe contrast with a cool color there. Maybe put complementary colors, so maybe you had like yellow next to purple. I just had a purple one, so maybe you had like yellow next to purple, or maybe red next to green, or you could do orange next to blue. You could kind of do different complementary colors, or warm and cool, or just a all over mix. So one way you could layer that up is you could just dot, dot, not a lot. And if you dot, dot, not a lot with liquid glue, or even use a glue stick, you can just put a few dots around the perimeter or outside edge and a few in the middle. And then you could stick those bad boys on your white paper, do a little dance, let them dry. And then you could layer them as well. So again, you could directly glue them to your white paper and create a textured and colored background like that. Maybe I'll do one more piece here. So dot, dot, not a lot. Stick, layer, let dry. Then once it's dry, you could use oil pastels or crayons or markers or paint on top, or collage with scrap paper. Another way you can do this, but again, you got to let that glue dry. Otherwise, if you drew on top of it right now, you might rip the tissue paper because the glue's not dry. Other ways you can do this. You can stick your piece of tissue paper down like that, and while it is sitting on your paper, you can use a wet paintbrush to kind of saturate or cover completely the tissue paper in its spot there. And you'll want to cover the whole thing. And you're going to do this, which is called a tissue paper bleed. So the color in the tissue paper, once it reacts with the water, is going to seep through onto your white paper. So you would let that dry and let some of that water evaporate and dry, and then you would be able to take off your dried crinkly piece of tissue paper, and you could reuse it if you want, or you could collage with it or whatever. But then the color of the tissue paper and the shape of it will stay on your white paper. So I would want to let this tissue paper dry and let the water evaporate before I pulled it up, but I will just kind of pull up a corner to show you that it's already starting to bleed through. Do you see that? That red is seeping onto the paper there. So I lifted it up. The red is working. Is the green working? Oh man, that green's really working. I'll pull the whole piece off right now. See how it's doing a tissue paper bleed? You wouldn't have to let it dry completely if you don't want to, but if you want the most color, you would just let it sit and dry, and then you can easily peel it off and reuse it once it's dry. So those are the two ways you can layer up your base, your white paper background. You can glue the tissue paper directly and stick it on, then let it dry, and then you could draw and add texture. This is with an oil pastel right now. You could use Sharpie. You could also paint on top of it. But colors show up, but see, it wasn't completely dry, it kind of ripped, so you'd want to be careful on the tissue paper until it's dry, and then especially wait for it to dry if you do the water tissue paper bleed technique. So again, glue it directly or use water on a paintbrush to kind of tappy tap tap and cover it, and then you can pull off the tissue paper when it's dry, or just after a little while, and then just wait for that to dry before you paint on top. So those are your two methods on there. Once you have your base with tissue paper, whether you did the bleed or the gluing, then think about the surreal animals we've kind of read about with ERIC CARLE. Here's his regular zoo animals, and then some of the surreal or nonsense stories that he wrote are where the animals are odd colors or odd patterns or weird combination animals. So you can be a little kooky and nonsensical yourself and surreal, or you could be more real. So realistic or surrealistic. So kind of dream, crazy, kooky nonsense, or just a regular animal like real life that you would see in a zoo or in its natural habitat. So these are all illustrations by ERIC CARLE, so I'm leaving this up if you wanted to pause and look at these images of different animals like the spider monkey, the panda, the pinguino, the tortuga turtle, the whooping crane, sea lion, buffalo, etc. And then in some of the stories, like the artist who painted a blue horse, I was inspired by that one too, and I made a blue horse. So I painted and added texture, so I used crayons, oil pastels, and some paint on top of tissue paper after my tissue paper dried, and I made the blue horse just like in that story. But I also liked some of the other animals as well, so I made a nighttime orange and yellow elephant. Now, elephants are not usually yellow and orange, so would this be realistic or surrealistic? Real or surreal? A blue horse and a yellow-orange elephant. Surreal. So I wanted to be a little wacky. I also liked the green lion and the purple flamingo in the story too, and I made red clouds. So again, surreal, not realistic. Surreal, like a dream or wackiness. Red clouds, purple flamingos, green lions, orange elephants, blue horses. I chose to glue the tissue paper and keep it on there. I like the texture it made. But then if you wanted to do the tissue paper bleed so that there was no actual paper left on the, or any tissue paper left on your white paper, then you could get rid of that texture and just paint and draw right on top without fear of it ripping or tearing the tissue paper. So, two methods, gluing and bleeding. Be real or surreal. Think about animals or creatures or other landscapes that you might want to explore with your creativity. So, keep up the good work. I can't wait to see what you come up with as you work like ERIC CARLE. Adios, amigos.